Welcome everyone, this is Daphne from DEVC206 and I've got a question for you. How many times have you been scrolling through Facebook, TikTok, or X and suddenly a news story pops up that everyone seems to be talking about? The kind of news you weren't even looking for, but it grabs your attention right away and spreads like wildfire. Have you ever wondered why some stories instantly go viral while others quietly fade away? That's exactly what we'll talk about today. The 10 elements of news. The guiding principles journalists use to decide what makes a story newsworthy. For this report, I'll combine the academic definitions from our module with real timely examples grounded in stories unfolding in the here and now in the Philippines. So let's dive in. Starting with the first element, timeliness. Timeliness refers to the recency of an event. People follow the news because they want to be updated about what is happening now. A story that happened months ago is usually ignored unless new updates or memes surface. In the age of Facebook, TikTok, and X, news spreads instantly. Breaking stories dominate feeds within minutes, making timeliness one of the strongest factors that determines newsworthiness. For example, the DPWH Ghost Project scandal shows the power of timeliness. For years, rumors of irregularities existed, but it only exploded in August 2025 when passing Mayor Vico Soto publicly accused veteran broadcasters, Corina Sanchez and Julius Baba, of airing what he described as paid interviews with contractors tied to questionable DPWH flood control projects. He even suggested amounts in the range of 10 million may have been involved, though he admitted the figure was not exact. Corina quickly defended herself, saying she was not obligated to cover every issue and that Soto's remarks were slanderous, sparking debates on media accountability versus political transparency. The clash was timely enough to dominate online discourse. Soon after, in September 2025, new DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon ordered courtesy resignations, while Sara Discaya admitted in a Senate hearing to owning 28 luxury cars, provoking Senator Jingo Estrada's fiery words, "This is unbelievable. Tapos pera ng gobyerno? Nasaan ang konsensya mo?" Other timely examples include QC cement accident on August 12, 2025, where three grade 7 students were struck by falling debris, followed by updates until one of them, CJ Baldonado, died on August 27, and the global news on May 13, 2025, when former President Rodrigo Duterte shockingly won as Davao mayor while detained in the hub after his ICC arrest just 2 months earlier. Also, in September 2025, PSA announced that unemployment rose sharply to 2.59 million, up from 1.95 million the month before. This spike dominated headlines and feeds because of its immediacy and its impact on ordinary Filipinos. Next, prominence. Prominence highlights who is involved in a story. If a public figure or institution is at the center, the story becomes automatically more significant. Even minor events can become national headlines if they involve someone powerful, wealthy, or famous. The Discayas are proof of this. Corruption really isn't new in the Philippines, but because Sara Discaya was a businesswoman and former mayoral candidate, her admission of owning 28 luxury cars became front page news. Prominence also magnified the clash when Senator Jingo Estrada scolded her in the Senate, his words resonating because both are high profile figures. Alice Guo's disqualification was also amplified by prominence. She was not just an ordinary citizen exposed as Chinese, but an elected mayor. The same is true for Apollo Quiboloy, whose Senate candidacy dominated headlines not because filing candidacy was unusual, but because he was a notorious televangelist facing international warrants. And of course, Rodrigo Duterte's ICC arrest and hog detention made waves globally because of his prominence as a former president. Prominence ensures that familiar names dominate media attention. Another example was Rappler's apology to Senator Robin Padilla and the Muslim community for an editorial lapse. It was newsworthy not because of the mistake alone, but because it involved a sitting senator and a major news outlet, making the issue prominent. Third element is proximity. Proximity means people pay more attention to stories that are closer to them, either physically or emotionally. A flood in Metro Manila will resonate more with residents here than one abroad, but even distant events can feel close if they touch shared values. The QC floods on August 30, 2025, where 5 hours of rain equaled 5 days' worth, were widely covered because they directly affected Metro Manila residents. The QC cement accident emotionally struck parents nationwide, even those outside QC could imagine the pain of losing child walking home from school. Psychological proximity also explains national reactions to the Alice Guo scandal, though centered in Bamban, Tarlac. It touched Filipinos everywhere by raising concerns about sovereignty. Similarly, Duterte's ICC arrest abroad had emotional proximity because it was tied to the drug war, which directly touched thousands of Filipino families. The fourth element is oddity or novelty. Oddity refers to the unusual, bizarre, or unexpected events. News naturally draws people in when it highlights things that break the norm, because human curiosity is triggered by surprise. One striking example is the Discayas scandal. While corruption cases are sadly common in the Philippines, what made this story odd was Sara Discaya's casual admission of owning 28 luxury cars. The number was so excessive, it became unbelievable. Days later, Senator Jingoy Estrada revealed that the Discayas actually owned 70 cars in total, with 40 identified as luxury vehicles, and 12 already seized by the Bureau of Customs. This escalation made the scandal even stranger as the numbers kept changing. Oddity was also seen in a viral Senate exchange when a Discaya contractor admitted under oath that they only learned answers from YouTube. The bizarre reply shocked Filipinos and instantly became a meme. The Alice Guo case was another oddity, unfolding like a political thriller. At first, she was exposed as a Chinese national, masquerading as a Filipino mayor in Bamban, Tarlac. Already bizarre enough? But things took a stranger turn when she vanished from the Philippines despite an arrest warrant. Reports later revealed she had fled through Malaysia and was arrested in Indonesia before facing possible extradition back to the Philippines. What started as a sovereignty issue became a fugitive chase that almost felt cinematic. Then, there was the oddity of Rodrigo Duterte winning Davo's mayoralty from a jail cell in The Hague in May 2025. International outlets described it as unprecedented, but Filipinos processed it through memes na nanalo kahit tumatakbong kariton. Finally, oddity crosses into lifestyle news, like when PBB alumni Jesse Corsuera, a trans man, announced his pregnancy in October 2024. While pregnancy itself is ordinary, a trans man carrying a child in a deeply Catholic and conservative country like the Philippines was so unusual that it became headline news. Next, significance, impact, or consequence. Significance measures how many people are affected and how deeply. Some stories matter because they shape policies, lives, and national security. The DPWH scandal involving 545 billion in ghost projects is significant because it affects infrastructure and taxpayers nationwide. More than that, the clash between Vico Soto and Corina Sanchez highlighted the role of journalism, raining consequences for democratic accountability. The Alice Guo scandal had national consequences because it tied to pogos and sovereignty. Apollo Quiboloy's candidacy, despite warrants, threatened electoral integrity. The NAIA crash shook faith in airport safety, while the QZ tragedy revealed fatal flaws in construction regulation. Most significant is the HIV epidemic. DOH reported 57 new cases daily in early 2025, a 500% increase from the previous year, with over 139,000 Filipinos living with HIV. Yet stigma worsened the crisis. One viral comment said, "Mas marami na kasing bading kaysa sa puno." The remark showed how prejudice undermines public health, making this not just a medical, but a social emergency. Sixth element is conflict. Conflict refers to the clash of interests, opinions, or forces that create tension in a story. News thrives on disagreement, whether it's between people, institutions, or even values, because conflict naturally draws attention and stirs public debate. The Discaya hearings brimmed with conflict. Estrada versus Discaya was one layer, but another came when Senator Bato de la Rosa grilled the contractor about flawed projects. When the contractor admitted starting in 2016, Bato's look went viral as the meme Yari Ka. The conflict deepened when the numbers around the Discaya's cars kept changing, from Sarah's admission of 28 luxury cars to a total of 70 vehicles revealed by Estrada. The DPWH scandal was also a conflict between reformers like Pico Soto and the press, between government officials and citizens, and between media accountability and silence. The Alice Guo case was a conflict between sovereignty and foreign influence. Even the HIV epidemic revealed social conflict between advocates fighting for compassion and those spreading prejudice. And at the global scale, Duterte's ICC case pits international justice against Philippine nationalism. Conflict was also visible in the South Korean loan controversy, where Philippine and foreign officials contradicted each other on whether a multi-billion loan even existed. Next, suspense. Suspense refers to the element of uncertainty in news, when outcomes are unresolved, keeping the audience waiting for answers. People naturally stay hooked when they're anticipating the next update, twist, or revelation. The Discaya hearings are suspenseful. Every session brings new revelations, and people wait for the next bombshell. Will the commission audit and ombudsman file charges? The Duterte's ICC case is also filled with suspense. Will he face trial or avoid conviction? Quiboloy's candidacy raises suspense. Will he be arrested or make it to the Senate? Even families of the QC tragedy live in suspense, awaiting justice for CJ Baldonado. These examples show that unresolved outcomes keep people hooked to the news. The eighth element is human interest. Human interest refers to stories that stir emotions, whether sympathy, anger, pride, or relatability. These stories matter not just for the facts, but because they connect to people's everyday lives and feelings. The QC tragedy touched hearts when CJ Baldonado's grieving parents shared their pain. Robin Padilla's August 15, 2024 Senate remark about marital consent when it comes to sex angered women. And behind the HIV epidemic statistics are young people navigating shame, stigma, and prejudice, worsened by viral discriminatory jokes. These examples remind us that human faces and emotions give news its staying power. Human interest also appeared in lighter yet emotional stories. For example, GMA News featured farewell messages to an intern from strangers online, highlighting how digital communities can create touching connections. Another case was the viral story of Mitchell, an aspen who mourned the loss of his fur parrot. The ninth element is progress. Progress refers to stories that highlight development, improvement, or advancement, or, in some cases, the lack of it. News in this category often covers achievements, reforms, and innovations, but it also exposes failures and setbacks that hinder growth. The Metro Manila subway and Bulacan Airport are symbols of development, but the DPWH ghost projects show regression where billions were wasted. The Alice Guo scandal exposed the failure of democratic systems. The NAIA crash and QC tragedy showed how safety reforms lagged. On health, The HIV epidemic shows urgent need for progress in treatment, education, and stigma reduction. Progress stories matter because they reflect whether society is moving forward or backward. Progress was also illustrated by international developments. For instance, the US government pledged $250 million in aid to the Philippines in 2025, aimed at bolstering maritime security, climate resilience, and disaster preparedness. Such support was seen as progress in strengthening international partnerships. The last element is humor. Humor refers to the comic or entertaining side of events, often expressed through memes or jokes. In the Philippines, humor is not just a coping mechanism, but a cultural reflex, making even heavy news easier to digest. Typhoon aftermaths were paired with captions like, "Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday." Discayas 28 cars to 70 cars revelation inspired jokes like, "Mag-overtime muna para may pang-travel mga Disney princess," at "Change career na para maging contractor." Even the Yari Ka meme from Bato de la Rosa's questioning became viral, blending conflict with humor. Dark humor also surfaced. Naiya as Drive-Through Airport, the QC tragedy as Build Build Fall, and the infamous Condolence and Happy Birthday Christine Reyes. The What Happened Vela meme also turned a random clip into national humor, showing how Filipinos find laughter even in absurdity. Humor spreads fast because it entertains, but it also shows how people cope with serious issues. In conclusion, the 10 elements of news: timeliness, prominence, proximity, oddity, significance, conflict, suspense, human interest, progress, and humor explain why some stories dominate headlines while others are ignored. As UP Open University reminds us, these elements are not the only ones, but they are the most common, and they serve as guiding principles for reporters, journalists, or even us students. Understanding them allows journalists to sharpen their storytelling, focus on what truly matters, and fine-tune their approach to different issues. And for us, news consumers, knowing these values help us read between the lines. It makes us more discerning, less easily swayed, and more critical of the stories presented to us. At the end of the day, news is not just about what happens. It's about what is chosen, framed, and told. That choice shapes public opinion, and ultimately, it shapes society. This has been Daphne, reporting for DEVC206. See you next time.